So I started cutting school a lot and going back to the free school to visit all my friends there and just hang out.
And that free school, that's where you started. That's where you started playing
Pretty
music?
much. I mean, I was always into music, but that was really the first place that facilitated it. That was one of the cool things about that school was they really pushed the arts. They whatever the kids' interests were, they would give you the ability to pursue that. Unfortunately, they were also very lax. So if you didn't have the interest in pursuing math or whatever, they'd be like, oh, well, he's just not interested in it. He wants to be a musician. And it's like, as we all know as parents, it's like, no, fuck that. You need to know how to do your math. You need to know your shit. You need to know how to use your brain. It's not just about, gratifying your artistic and creative interests, because that's not going to always pay your fucking bills.
Yeah.
So no, but it was cool. It was cool in certain ways. Like
right.
I said, my math teacher, he was actually from the States. He was from the Bronx, and he was a jazz drummer and played stand-up bass, and he really was a big inspiration on me musically. And so it gave me some tools, that came in handy later in life.
Yeah, for sure. So you were listening to, actually got your first gig then, like you were playing little Santana covers and Kool and the Gang covers
that was
when
my
you were
school
6 or
band.
7
Yeah,
in
that
your
was,
school
that,
band.
yeah, my school band was cool.
Well, they were legit.
No, they were fucking legit. I mean, we were like, funky stuff. I mean, we were playing like I said, my math teacher, he was one of the band leaders. So, you got a guy from the Bronx who's a jazz dude. He's going to be teaching all these little Danish kids musically what's really going on.
Right.
Because in Denmark at the time, things like, ABBA was what was big, So, I mean, so it was like, what the fuck, So, yeah, my school was cool as far as music and counterculture and all that shit. But then, well, as you may have seen in the book, really, then when my mother, of all people, turned me on to the Sex Pistols, that's what really that changed everything for me. Thanks, Mom.
That was an eye opener. When you heard the Sex Pistols.
Oh yeah, it changed everything for me.
And at that time, like, you got one section here where you said, I remember coming off stage. You were playing with the band, I think the school band at this point. I remember coming off stage one night, and these girls that I was hanging out with, they were like, that lady you came with, which was your mom, she's in the bathroom. She's not feeling too good. I went in the bathroom and my mom was throwing up all over the place. That kind of shit was a kind of come down.
Yeah.
Back to reality. You have to walk
sucked.
your mom home.
Yeah. It's fucked up, little things like that, they stay with you forever. But, to her, she did sober up eventually, and she sobered up for about in the 80s until the day she died. She was clean, and people fall victim to drugs, to alcohol, and sometimes it's hard to pull yourself out, But eventually she did. Unfortunately, I had to witness a lot of real ridiculous shit. But I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect parent, Yeah, no doubt about that.
And your mom, she did, like you said, she get you the Sex Pistols album.
Yeah.
And like you said in here, you said, well, that was that.
Yeah.
and it's almost kind of what I was saying. Here we go into your book here. Until that point, I hung around with all these little hippie kids. I had long ass hair, so we were really already little freaks. We'd walk around the streets, people would give us looks and trip out on us. Our parents and teachers had long hair and beards and shit like that. But then punk rock came about, and this was more appropriate for me. It wasn't all peace and love. It was just more me. The music was raw, and the imagery and the craziness appealed to me. It was energetic, and a big factor for me was you didn't have to aspire to be Jimi Hendrix. You didn't have to be Carlos Santana. So you would listen to that music, and you'd say, you know what? I can just play it.
I can do this.
You can play that now.
I can do this. I can have fun and do this shit. Like, this is, you don't need to rack your brain to figure out how to do this. You could just do it.
Yeah.
You know,
get your power chords
fucking,
on.
Yeah, man. You know, it's like you just need sincerity, man. That's all you need, man.
Yeah.
That's all you fucking need.
You know what's funny is I always tell people this about music. If you go to a guitar store anywhere in America and you put up a little flyer in there that says, you know, I need someone that can play every note on the following 3 albums, you know, and you pick Complex, you pick Rush and Heart, and there'll be you'll get 10 people that'll say, yeah, I can play all that stuff. I'll play it for you right now. But and all those guys, I mean, a lot of those guys, unless they have that thing, unless they have that sincerity that you're talking about, and they have that little spark of creativity, it doesn't matter how technical you are if you don't have that heart.
You could be technically amazing and have not 1 ounce of inspiration in your fucking body, you know. And I mean, look, man, you know, the Ramones were, you know, some of the worst, greatest musicians ever. You know, those guys could barely fucking play, and they wrote songs that are still anthems. You know, songs that you will still hear played at like major sports arenas and whatever. I mean, you know, you know, music's a fucking weird thing, man.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And you had your first band called Little Big Boss. Was that in reference to you, I'm assuming?
You know what? It must have been. You know, it must have been because the other 2 guys in the band were adults, and they named the band. So looking back, they probably named it after me because I was like, I guess, already a tyrant to play with. But you know,
and you were playing drums at that point.
Yeah.
Hammering on the drums.
Yeah, man.